like I say, the thing is basically is that the Rothschilds were lied to. I'm not exactly sure the involvement of the Rothschilds. They're supporting this other blonde-haired child, basically, maybe the older Rothschild. Basically, he was being supported, whatever. And he thought, or they all thought that, because, like I said, imagine that it's the White House, the Oval Office, and someone's like, "So who wants to be the supreme leader?" And they go, "Me, me, me, me," and all these shouldn't say me. But the thing was, is that you can't actually become the supreme leader or the creator. You have to have already actually been the supreme leader or creator, which I already was. So anyway, um, and it would have mildly been okay, and I think it was my idea actually to try it out, pretty much. And it was just an experiment, but they couldn't actually, and it actually just went really, really ridiculously bad. But because it ended up compromising my own existence. So anyway, I don't really know, but I mean, it was another outside group that was doing it basically, and it might have had more to do with John McCain, Richard Nixon, and some other people that were actually doing it. So, like I said, they were climbing for power. They're climbing for technology, trying to beat me, trying to do everything, and they were actually trying to do it because they wanted to get time travel so they could keep me from finding out about the fact that they weren't the creator, or keep the world from finding out that they weren't the creator and I was the creator. So, like I say, the Vatican failed, the government failed because, I mean, basically they were going to try and go back and keep me from being creator or whatever else like that. That's where it ends up going, or something like that. So it just ends up in a paradox, basically. And basically we're trying to basically kill me before anybody found out that I'm Lucifer Star, the creator. And like I say, some black people, Papa, he just goes around like demeaning people. He's like, "I'm gonna tear you down. I'm gonna take you down," and blah blah blah. And he's just this prick that walks around. I don't know what his deal was, but basically around 1920, 1930, he was just like psycho. He had a bunch of other black people that were just being psycho with him or something like that. And he almost gets himself killed. He gets himself locked up in prison for like 20 years or 30 years or something like that because the Irish put him there. And then he blames the Irish. He blames me. He blames everyone. He's just a big blamer. It's like, thing was, every time they let him out, they kept letting him out, but every time they let him out, he'd go right back to it and just be psycho again or something. I don't really know. Like I say, I'd like to talk about it and say it's like this, like that, but I don't really know. I can only tell you like little bits of basically. I know he spent a long time in prison, and he blamed everyone. Anyway, and that's why he was like nuking people, laughing and with his rings, and that's why when it shows like he was the one maybe that dropped the bomb on China or something. I mean, like I said, they nuked they nuked a city in Russia. They nuked a bunch of places. It's a lot more than just two bombs. I was only responsible for two cities or something like that, and I wasn't even really responsible. I I gave them permission after they had actually already done it. So they're just trying to get permission from me to basically think to basically make it so people didn't go, what the fuck was all that, they're trying to cover their ass or something or connect me to it. But some people said I wasn't actually connected, it was actually them. So I don't really know exactly the details of it though. So anyway, like I said, a lot of people were trying to frame me. So I was actually not responsible for almost any of it, like the Middle East stuff or anything else. Like I said, I've already said what I'm responsible. Anyway, at some point like in time, like I say, I am responsible for the Germans going to basically Africa and getting those people that kept on using children to go and try and kidnap people or try and steal cars and stuff like that. I was responsible for getting those children away from those other people. And that was like one little German thing. They were just testing out my tanks, basically. Those things when they're saying, "Oh, this little part and this little shaft runs the fan and stuff like that." That tank, they're testing it out with the air cleaner system. Like I said, a lot of tank production was actually like me, basically. I was the forerunner company or forerunner person that was actually having the tanks built, the combat tanks. Well, I mean, you got to protect your people. And like I say, from the time of Renault or the time of Paris, basically, I knew that we were going to be attacked or we were going to have problems. So, and you always want to be careful. So, it's part of existence. You don't just sit on your ass. It's not just a nice planet. Like you have a group of people that you're with. Namely, I was with the Germans, the Chinese, and the Russians. Basically, everyone in Europe, pretty much. So and I'm responsible for their safety. If I don't stay up with everything, if I don't invest in things, if I don't have these people researching stuff, if I'm not building these tanks, then the next whoever could come along and go, and then what are my people going to do? How are they going to stop the psychopathic army? They can't. So I always had to be up to date. You hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. That was always my motto. So that's why Germany and Russia and China and Japan had tanks, because and like I said, Japan gets a Renault tank, like they buy some tanks too, and basically because they understand that you have to be careful, and any Billy Bob Brain can actually just walk out there and go, meh, and then you're dead. And he might get together with 150 of his children and a couple other people, and then decide to take over your town or something, or do whatever, which was happening a lot back in 1920, 1930, especially with JFK and Jimmy Carter. Like I said, I had my prototype PT boats, which stands for Personal Transport Boat, and they stole them. They're painted white, and then they paint them this gray color to try and say that they're German, but they're not. And then later on, you find out that during Vietnam, that they're actually using them in Vietnam, and like they say, like they have all this stuff, blah 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 blah, and they have this whole movie thing of Vietnam, but it wasn't really like that. They were just going up to warehouses and going, and then grabbing a bunch of crates and shit, and then stealing it off, and then selling the parts. Like JFK was poor as fuck. So was Nixon. They barely had even 2 dimes to rub together. About all they could do is basically kill a bunch of people and go live in the houses. So, I mean, they didn't even really have eminent domain. It wasn't until later when they were supposedly something or other, and basically they just gone in and basically killed a bunch of senators and then and then moved into their offices and said, "Oh, I'm elected. Here's my official document." It was all a big lie. It was all a big lie and a big bluff. It was all bullshit. No one had elected them. They just literally just moved into the offices and no one kicked them out or something, or no one even noticed for a long time or so. I don't really know. Like I said, the Washington D.C. building wasn't even really a courthouse. It was barely just a courthouse, and it was the only one in Washington. I only had one courthouse. It wasn't until later on that I actually built a few more and do some other stuff, because so many people, and realistically, it's just basically a bunch of people running around shooting people, pretending to be cops or something. Anyway, I don't know. You have to talk to JFK, Jimmy Carter, and some other people. Like the Washington, D.C. was a library originally. And before that was a calligraphy, Harvard was a calligraphy school for like 120 years. And before that it was a steam whatever, and a deep mine, and something else. Like that's all these buildings ever were. Like everything you know about them is just a lie. So, and there was a jail underneath Harvard. And a jail underneath the White House, and they were like keeping people down there to like invent or work for them or something. I don't really know. They said you have to ask the congressmen or the fake aristocrat. The aristocrats are the Republicans, which are the congressmen, or the 2 congressmen, and also and the Republicans and Democrats are the same group. It's just that they got in so much trouble with the Republicans that they had to change their name to Democrats. And realistically, it was just one was a militia, the Republican militia, and one was the Democrats, which basically ordered the militia around. Like older Republicans. And that's so one's the army, one's the other thing. So basically it's Democrats and their Republican militia. And that's all it was. And then eventually the Republican militia is like, fuck that, and basically starts attacking the Democrats, or something like that. Anyway, I don't really know. That's the best I can tell you. And like the Civil Wars actually didn't happen. There was actually no Civil Wars in America other than a bunch of death until that happened in like 1970 or 1950. Originally, what they considered the Civil War was actually they were trying to take over the rest of the world and fighting in the rest of the world, Europe. The actual wars that they report in the United States actually didn't happen. They actually happened in Europe. So, and that's why Europe knows the Yankees. Because they're the Republicans and Democrats. Anyway, it's all confusing. Everything you've been taught in school is completely wrong. So this will help you a little bit, and then you can also just get into the White House and also the Pentagon, and you'll start to understand. Nixon and JFK spent like 15 years about 15 years, researching everything so he could get a good idea and he was just figuring out how you could switch things around, going to the Pentagon.